Hello, this is John, the Prepared Mind at the Prepared Mind channel. Welcome back, everybody. How about welcome back to me? I'm back on the West Coast. I last week had two, count them, 1-2 kidney stones. Man, that was a 1-2 punch. So, now that I'm home, now that I'm feeling a little bit better, a little bit jet lagged, but better nonetheless, I got a 1-2 punch for you guys. Alright, 1-2 punch. What am I talking about? Well, this morning I'm talking about a way to look at some stuff. So I was back on the East Coast, and I've got to tell you, I know and I've met people from around the world, from around the country, everybody from every different shape, size, color, race, country. I meet people all the time. I met some really fascinating people from Cuba, from Puerto Rico yesterday. It's just amazing. You know, when I run into people, I think probably the last time was 6 years ago where I ran into someone who actually behaved in a rather prejudiced way towards me because of my skin color. Other than that, I tell you, I meet people of every different shade. Some, well, not really anybody as white as I am, but you know, it's always fun, and it's fun to ask them where they're from and what their origins are and what their story is, and just kind of talk to them, you know, get to know them. There's really nothing wrong with other people on the planet as long as they're in their right fucking mind. And that's what the subject of this video is about. And this is about shit hitting the fan, right? Because there's going to be a lot of people who aren't in their right mind when shit hits the fan. I mean, I tell you, I ran into just everybody, you know, from around the world, from England. 3 days ago, someone from England, a couple of Swedes. They're speaking Swedish. They kept looking at me, and I just pretended like I could understand. Yeah. I couldn't understand a damn thing they were saying. You know. And I see people, and it doesn't matter who they are or what color they are. You know, I call them brother. You know, and I get treated with a welcoming warmth, a kindness, right, a niceness. Like, well, I guess this giant, and I was called a giant the other day. You know, gentle giant, a big fun guy. I was on the East Coast with a friend of mine doing some business, and yeah, got called a giant by a father. He had a little teeny daughter in his arms, and we're in the elevator going up, and she was looking up at me with a degree of awe or terror and fright. And he goes, "Hey, he's a nice giant. He's not going to do anything to you." You know, and it was kind of funny. But yeah, anyways, the point of me starting talking about all the different races and people and cultures is, as long as we treat each other well, with respect, with love, there shouldn't be any problem. But there's this 1-2 punch I want to bring up here. You know, I want to start by talking about this news headline here. But before I get that, Veritas, Project Veritas, has done some excellent work, and they have for a long time. They have caught Democrat campaigns admitting that they use their people as tools, as sheep, as fools to carry their water. And they've also admitted in lying. They lie to their voters. They lie to all the voters, these Democrat candidates for Congress, for the Senate. I think Claire McCaskill was the subject of one of Veritas's projects. But the thing is they accuse us, Republicans, conservatives, Christians, white people, of being homophobes and xenophobes and racists and Nazis and fascists. They call us all the dirty names. They project onto us what they are. Right? And it's horrifying when you see what these people do and say. Right? They laugh at their own people. They're using them, right? They use them so that they can divide and conquer and pit us against each other. Like I said, when I walk up and meet someone, I'm like, hey brother, how you doing, man? And just meet them. Meet them. And I don't think anything about skin color except, that dude didn't get sunburned like I did today. It's about the only thing I think. Right? But Hillary Clinton, just a day or so ago, was on some stage being interviewed. It was recorded. And she was talking about Eric Holder, the ex-attorney general, that guy who gave guns to drug lords and criminals who in turn murdered Mexicans, Mexican officials, and I believe some of our own border guards, right, law enforcement. Right? She referred to him as something, she couldn't get his name right, and then she said, they all look alike. Meaning all black people look alike. And I can't tell you how offended I was that Hillary would say something like that. When all you see is color, I guess that's all you see. But, I see a mouth, I see ears, I see hair. I see nose, I see eyes, and eyes are the window to the soul. I see human beings and people. Some are shitheads and some are good people, but I see people. I don't ever say things like they all look alike. And so the crowd started laughing when Hillary said that. Right? When she referred to Eric Holder, who I believe is African American. He how he looks like everyone else. All she sees is color. And it's kind of like these Democrats. All they see is color. They don't judge people or deal with them. I don't want to use the word judge because I don't judge people, but I do have to fucking deal with them on an individual basis. Right? I see that guy and he doesn't have a smile on his face. I see that guy, he's got a smile on his face. I'm going to deal with the guy with the smile. Right? I'm going to deal with that guy. So let's get into how these ding-dongs think. Right? I kind of describe people, and again, I don't care what your ideology is. Even if you're a communist, I don't care unless you're violent. I don't care what your religion is unless you're violent. I don't care what your creed is, your political status is, unless you use that for violence. You see, violence is an act of war. Right? And forcing someone to agree with you is an act of war, either on the nation-state level or on a personal, individual level. So what I've got is this story here. Hardline Islamists in Pakistan call for death of judges who overturned Christian woman's death sentence for blasphemy. Now this is it's a Yahoo.com news story. Not making it up. Okay, you can get a look there at the headline. Headline. There you are. Hardline Islamists in Pakistan call for the death of judges who overturned Christian woman's death sentence for blasphemy. Now, right, a hardline Islamist party in Pakistan has called for the death of the judges who overturned the death sentence for blasphemy. Asia Bibi was sentenced to death in 2010 on blasphemy charges. She had gone to fetch water for herself and fellow farm workers on a hot day the previous year. But 2 Muslim women had refused to drink from the same container, and she was accused by a mob of blasphemy. Right? They left out some details here, like, well, what was the blasphemous charge? What did they say she said, right? So she was convicted and sentenced to death. Now, this was back in 2010. If I do my math right, that was about 8 years ago. Why isn't she dead? Right? She's not. And apparently, they have a pretty good appeals system in these courts over there. Right? She was convicted and sentenced to death, but in a landmark ruling, Pakistan's top court, we'll just call it the Pakistani the Supreme Court, has now admitted Ms. Bibi. See, I read that wrong. Right? They have now acquitted Ms. Bibi in order that she be released. Right? The judgment has sparked a backlash from hardline Islamists who have called for the death of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and 2 other judges behind the ruling. Right? It's fascinating to me. So, when I say, you know, I can look at that guy and he's not smiling, I look at that guy and he's smiling, right? I can see people from everywhere around the world. I can see people from every religion and talk to them. I don't care if they're Muslim or if they're Buddhist. I don't care. Right? Because I'm not one of them, and I don't believe what they believe. I believe what I believe. I have my spirituality. I have my understanding of the Almighty. Right? And I don't have to believe what someone else says, unless there's a sword at my neck or a gun at my head. Right? And that's the problem. Right? That's the 1-2 punch I'm going to get to here. You see, my problem with these is not with Muslims. It's not with Islam. My problem is with people who have an ideology that requires them to act out in a violent way. Now, most Muslims I've met, they're not like that. And people that practice a pure form of the faith, right, they don't act like that. But these people who go off on a tangent and they take one section and they just go into it and they believe that, right? And Christians aren't that way. Even with admitted and avowed witches today, there's a line in the Bible that says you shall not suffer a witch to live. But we're not having witch hunts and we're not burning witches. We're not convicting them to death, right? It's like, well, as long as you don't hex me, we're fine, right? As long as you don't stick me with a knife, we're fine. Believe what you want, right? You have to answer for it and deal with it in your own way, not me. But these radical Muslims that I just read about, not only did they want this woman dead because she was accused by 2 women of blasphemy. Accused, right? One is accused by 2. It's 2, their word against the one. That woman had to die. And a court found guilty, and she was sentenced to death. And thankfully, the Pakistani Supreme Court, in some form of belief in human beings and their individuality and who knows what else, they overturned that and said, no, this lady gets to live. Right? I would like to believe they did it because, right, why are you holding a Christian woman to Muslim standards, their belief system? Well, they don't care if she's Christian. And this really isn't about Christianity. This is about a people with an ideology that is being forced on everyone else. And if you don't accept it, or in the case of blasphemy, you say something that they think is against their belief system, that the sentence is death. That's punch number 1. Now here's punch number 2. We in America here, we like to go, geez, you know, these wacko people from around the world that believe other people should die because they don't agree with them, they're crazy. They're out of their minds. Can you believe that people think like that? Well, we have that right here in the United States of America. We have people who have an ideology that in and of by itself, if I said that properly, is harmless, because only those who adhere to it, right, have problems with it. But when they use the force and power of government, as in the people that use the court to condemn this woman to death, when these other groups use the power of government, the sword, the gun, right, then the ideology becomes much, much more dangerous. Because they will kill people. And if they get power, if they get supreme government power, they become the majority. They'll use that power, the power of government, to hurt others. And we have seen this far too much, not just in the last decade, not just in the last century, even though we've had more killing in the last century than probably the rest of world history combined. But if you look at basically percentages of people that have died because of the ideology and belief system of others, you can see how we're going to get in trouble. We're going to be in trouble here in the United States of America because of socialists and communists. They, like the radical, wacko, crazy, ridiculously bizarre Muslims who would accuse you of blasphemy and have you killed because they just don't like you. Right? Communists are every bit as bad and worse, as far as I'm concerned. They should know better, but they don't. And like the people that Claire McCaskill and Hillary Clinton and other politicians out here right now, the same way they're using their people, the people in charge, the people in power, wind up and use the ignorance of their acolytes for their own personal power and gain. Right? These ignorant men in Pakistan that want people dead because they're not doing what they want them to do. They're being used. The same way people here in the U.S. are being used. Now over here in the U.S. they're a bigger threat to us because they're right next door. Right? They're our neighbors. They're in our communities. These people are going to kill us when shit hits the fan. You see, when things go bad, when times are tough, all through history there's examples. We're replete with examples where we didn't get enough rain, or we got too much rain, or it was too hot, or it was too cold and crops failed, or a disease came through and killed off a herd of cattle or some other livestock. Well, the people look around and they want to blame somebody for the way things have gone wrong. Right? They don't want to blame the planners who put too many cattle in too small of a field, so instead they blame the blasphemers, those who don't believe as they do. Right? And they go kill them, they punish them. Right now, the people in charge, the Hillary Clintons, the other idiots in Washington, whether they have a D or an R, I don't care, whether they're Republican or Democrat, or they're an avowed rhino, a proclaimed idiot socialist progressive, those are the idiots that are causing the problems. And we're going to have, right, we already have infrastructure failures, issues, weaknesses. We have monetary, financial, and economic weaknesses. We have definite social problems. We have huge political issues and corruption. We have crony capitalism, which is essentially fascism. That's where businesses work hand in hand with government, benefiting each other and rubbing each other on the back. Right? Glad-handing each other. They have fucked everything up so bad, we're going to have shit hitting the fan. It's looking like the dollar is going to come down just after the election. They're going to weaken it. It's going to cause all kinds of stress, all kinds of worry, all kinds of angst. The market is doing what I said it's going to do. It's teetering back and forth between ups and downs. And that's not the sign of a bull market. That's the sign of a bear market. The start of a major correction, a massive correction, a crash. So we've got all these problems. But this 1-2 punch, right, I'm talking about, right? The Muslim and then the radical communist. Right? Bam, bam. Everywhere you turn. The problem isn't intelligent, educated, hardworking people who are cooperative and willing to learn and think and pool resources and get together. When shit hits the fan, those are the people that are going to be your allies. And it doesn't matter what their religion is, or what their color is, or what their age is. Right? It's going to come down to whether or not they're willing to do the work. But the people who are the most ignorant among us, who are taught to believe in radical, violent ideas, like radical Muslim beliefs and radical socialist, communist beliefs, that the solution and the answer is to blame the people that they need to blame in order to take action against them and justify their violence. When shit hits the fan, it's going to be an extremely violent occasion. Right? It's going to be terrifying to be around. Because people are not only going to have this ignorance on their part, they're going to be afraid. Right? There's going to be a lot of fear out there. Right? They're going to be scared. Right? Scared for themselves, they're going to be afraid of others. Right? They're going to be angry because this happened. Who do they blame, right? Well, you always blame the people that are different from you. But I know for a fact that the Christians, right, the nice Catholics, the nice Buddhists, right, the nice secularists, they're not going to run around looking to violently harm people. You don't need to worry about them the same way you need to worry about some little nerd running around with a black handkerchief pulled over his face, right, who thinks that he's out doing Lenin's work. Right? He thinks he's Trotsky's buddy. He thinks he's Stalin's grandson. Whatever they believe, they're crazy. But they have a very dangerous ideology, and it's already in their head. The division, the hatred that is taught by Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton and Claire McCaskill, this hatred and division that tells black people, whitey is after you. That tells poor people, anyone with more money than you is rich, and they stole it from you. And they tell one religion that it's the other religion's fault. The ignorant people out here, guys, they don't understand how they're being used, how they're being tricked. You know, we can see it and understand it, but that doesn't insulate us. That's not a prophylactic against being attacked. All it does is put us on guard. That's the being prepared part. We need food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. We need a plan. We need to understand the world around us. Who are these people? Why do they think that way? Is it because they're educated or because they're ignorant? Is it because they're independent and self-motivated or because they're being directed? Because they're being used? We need to understand that there's a lot of people out there who have been indoctrinated, and they're being directed, and they're going to be used when shit hits the fan. We've got a lot of tension politically built up right now. Next Tuesday, and oh, by the way, next Tuesday, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, the Prepared Mind, I'm going to have the Fourth Dimension, I'm going to have Backcountry Preps, I'm going to have Ooman, I'm going to have Big Chris. We're going to have quite a roundtable all night long as the elections go on. We're going to have views and opinions from around the country shared on what's going on and what we can expect. But right now we've got a lot of tension, a lot of fear. Right? If Democrats had a platform, they'd be out there pushing it, telling us about all the great things they're going to do, but they don't. So what are they doing? They're fomenting hate and hatred, rage, anger, blame, guilt. Because I think that whether they win or lose, the Democrats are going to go off the hook. If they lose, they're going to say the Republicans cheated. If they lose, they're going to say we've got no more hope, we need to be violent. You combine that with the upcoming economic problems we've got some big trouble. Big trouble. Right now the world has been suffering under a very strong dollar. And I know this is, it's hard to follow the economics. I follow it all the time, and I have trouble going, what is going on? Why is it doing this? Well, it's so massively manipulated, you can't predict what's going to happen next, right? But you can predict what people are going to do next. They're going to lose their fucking minds. So please have a plan of defense. Please have the tools of defense. Please have the supplies needed for a siege. Not necessarily a siege in your house or a siege on your neighborhood, but a siege of our entire civilization. We are under siege because the system is sick. There has been so much corruption and theft that the system is sick. It needs a cure. And that cure is going to come in the way of collapse. And hopefully the restructuring doesn't mean wiping away the Constitution. And I find it absolutely intriguing that Trump, at this moment in time, is taking a hard shot at the 14th Amendment, which there's a lot of controversy over. There always has been. And getting rid of anchor babies and other problems. You know, he's not rewriting the Constitution. He's not using an executive order to change anything. What he's going to do is have the Supreme Court take a look at the rules, take a look at the language, take a look at the intent, take a look at the foundation. Because if the 14th Amendment itself is in conflict with another piece of constitutional law, well, it has to be examined, right? The court has to make a determination. Hopefully they end up on the side of fair, intelligent thinking. Hopefully the court is able to ferret out the right and the wrong. What is good for the nation, not national security, but good for the people. Right? And you can bet your ass that if the court rules in Trump's favor, you're going to have threats like these. Hardline Democrats in America call for death of Supreme Court judges who overturned 14th Amendment's improper application after decades. You know, that's what the headline could read. There's going to be a lot of call for death out there. There's going to be problems. We need to be ready for everything coming down the pipe. Everything coming down the pipe. Right? We've got dollar problems. We've got Steve Mnuchin, who's the Treasury Secretary, saying they're ready to sell, I think, the largest pile of bonds. In other words, they're going to issue currency that has dollar value. They're going to sell dollars onto the market as much as they can. That's going to be a flood of cash, in other words. That is a lot of problems. Right? One, creates debt for us. Two, puts more currency in circulation, which creates inflationary issues and also weakens the dollar. Does a lot of different things. That's going to have an effect on the stock market. It's going to have an effect on gold and silver prices. Watch gold and silver prices. Oh yeah, they skyrocketed yesterday, didn't they? Oh yeah, very interesting stuff. I don't think it's real yet. I still expect a complete and total collapse of the COMEX at some point, which is going to make finding a spot or physical price an impossibility for a period of time. But we're going to need to get rid of these false, manipulated systems of control over our lives. And it's all coming. It's all part of shit hitting the fan. And I hope for shit hits the fan light, meaning we don't go dark. We don't have 3 months of blackness, of chaos, of purge and murder in the streets. I don't want that. And I'm hoping this can all be done with minimal disruption, with minor chaos, with shit hits the fan hotspots, versus a nationwide blanket and a worldwide blanket of horror and terror. I don't know what I'm going to get, but what I can tell you is, if you're ready, if you're prepared, if you've got everything you need, food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, if you don't have those things, go to thepreparedmind.club. Take a look around at what we have. Right? It's just, it's all Amazon.com based stuff. Trying to get the cheapest products out there, the most cost-effective products, because people need to be ready. They don't have time to go shopping. You don't have time to goof off. We need to be ready now. Because when it starts, when it happens, that's all there is to it. Right? It's like game over. Right there, it's game on at that point. The new game. The old game is over, the new game is on. Right? And by having all of those things and a plan and understanding the world we live in, right, you'll be in a better position to survive it, to get through it, to get to the other side. Right? And life will continue. That's the hope. Right? That's what we have to look forward to. It's all the stupid in the past, all the bad things that happened way back there, right, that we're going to have to pay for. All the bad decisions, all the greed, all the corruption, all the thievery. We're going to have to pay for that because it was done in your name. It was done in my name. Right? And they put that debt on us and they put it on our kids. Right? Our kids get to inherit $40 trillion, $60 trillion, $200 trillion. All this personal debt. Right? It's incredible. The personal debt, the public debt, credit card debt, school debt, car debt, home debt, derivatives. We have to pay that back. We got no benefit for it, for fuck's sake, but we got to pay it back, right? That's the chaos that's coming. Right? So, do your very best. I'm John. I want to thank you for coming here. Tomorrow will be the weekly wrap-up. Yep, it sure will. The weekly wrap-up is coming up, and you know what I like to ask there. And then we get into next week. Next week is a big election week. Right? We got lots of stuff coming. I think Trump has got some more surprises. And you want to talk about a ballsy guy, right? The week before an election, he's going to bring up something as you could say inflammatory as discussion, not only of the immigrants who have been told they're going to be met by the military, but that if just because you have a child born here doesn't mean that person's an American citizen, because their parents were here illegally or they were non-citizens themselves. Big questions coming up, and that was a ballsy move, and I think Trump has got some more of that. So, right, watch everybody, test everybody. Test what I say. I'm just a guy. But do your best to be ready for what's coming. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. I'll see you tomorrow.